Greetings, people of God. I would like to welcome you all to the presentation that crosses us over to the year of 2022. It's been a great year in the year of 2021. We have experienced a lot of wonders from our Lord Jesus Christ, and we thank God for ushering us throughout the whole year. I'm just here to present to you the theme of Mysteries and Revelations online ministry for the year 2022. The extremes in the dimension of revelation, or the extremes in revelation dimension. These are the extremes that we are going to be operating in the year of 2022. I guess most of you understand the word extremes. Extremes means beyond, going beyond the uncalculated, the unmeasured, the unlimited. And dimension, it means a certain angle, which I need to reveal to you so that you understand which angle exactly the Revelator is talking about in the extremes of revelation dimension, or the extremes of dimensions in revelation. It's not only one dimension, but many dimensions of extremes in revelation. So, just to give you a glimpse of spiritual understanding of what the year 2022 holds for us in terms of expectancy in the level of revelation dimension or dimensions, let's get into the book of Matthew chapter 16 verse 13. And it reads, when Jesus came into the coast and the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples a question saying, whom do the people say I am? This was a question that was asked by Jesus. He posed a question to his disciples, wanting to see if his disciples knew who really he was. Of course, it's one thing to know Jesus, who he was physically, because many knew Jesus in many dimensions again, which were interpreted or defined or described in many different ways. But there was one correct definition that Jesus needed when he asked this question. And he asked those that he spent time with. And all that Jesus needed was an answer that was correct from his disciples. After he had demonstrated a lot of spiritual abilities, a lot of dimensions in the spirit, he posed that question. And the disciples said, some say you are John the Baptist, some say you are Elijah, and others say you are Jeremiah or one of the prophets. All these that have been mentioned by the disciples, giving them as descriptions of examples, are what the people are saying, not what the disciples think. Meaning that the disciples are simply answering back to Jesus, giving also descriptions of assumptions that they have heard from other people. Yet Jesus expected one answer that would bring understanding to Jesus, that these disciples understood who Jesus really was. And this would also enlighten Jesus to understand that his disciples were following and were listening to someone they understood. After the description of the examples, the descriptions of assumptions had been given by the disciples, saying, some say you are John, and some saying you are John the Baptist, some say you are Elias, and others say you are Jeremiah or just one of the prophets. He then asked them the second question, that way he redirected the same question that he had asked them earlier and said unto them, but who do you say I am? Because that question still remained unanswered. It needed to be answered. And Simon Peter answered and said among the disciples, Simon Peter, remember, he is one of the disciples, the first disciples that Jesus had chosen and elected among his other disciples, among the 12 disciples. And Simon answered and said, You are at the Christ. Thou art the Christ. You are Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God. Now let's find out how Simon Peter, among the disciples that were basing on assumptions that they had from other people, how Simon Peter got to know that this is Jesus Christ, or this is Christ, the Son of the living God, and to understand also if that answer that Simon Peter gave is correct. And Jesus answered and said unto him, Blessed are you, Simon Peter, for flesh and blood has not revealed this unto you, but my Father which is in heaven. I need you to understand this. Simon Peter, besides being the first disciple that was called by Jesus, everything that Simon Peter knew was what he had been taught by Jesus, except for this revelation. This is why Jesus asked his disciples that question, who really he was, so that he wanted to know if they knew something that was extreme, that he, Jesus, had not taught his disciples. And Simon Peter goes to an extreme level of understanding something that has not been taught by Jesus himself. He goes to an extreme dimension of understanding a gospel that has never been taught. In the year of 2022, there is an extreme level of revelation. There is a dimension of revelation. There is an extreme dimension that has never been heard, that has never been taught. An extreme dimension of revelation that you cannot Google. An extreme dimension of revelation that you cannot find on YouTube. An extreme dimension that you won't see in messages, in chain messages. An extreme dimension that will not be easily acceptable when you share it with others. It is the dimension of revelation that will be extremes. An extreme dimension that goes beyond what has been shared among people. That goes beyond what people have accepted. There is a gospel that people have accepted. It is the gospel that is common among men. But this is not the gospel that is going to be preached in 2022. It is an extreme level of dimension in the level of revelation that will take you places in the spirit that you have never arrived or reached. That is the gospel and the theme that we are going to be sharing in the year of 2022. Peter is given a task in the spirit to answer a question by Jesus. A question that was not easy. A question of understanding who really Jesus was, and he gives an accurate revelation, which Jesus understands that this level of revelation cannot come from you, Peter, because of its extremes, but only from my Father who is in heaven. So the level of revelation, the level of extremes that we are talking about in the year 2022 are levels that are not man-made, but levels that come from heaven. They are not levels that are read on internet. They are not levels that are scribbled by other writers on internet. They are not levels that can be read in scriptures. They are levels that have never been heard, levels that have never been seen. These are the extremes in revelation dimension. People of God, everyone that believes in the extremes, you are tapping into the level of extremes, into the levels of dimensions of operating in the spirit in the year 2022. 2022, it's a year that we are revealing things that have never been revealed before. I bless your year of 2022. Until next time, have a blessed day.